The strange signal came on a Tuesday. Jack Norton was working the night shift at the NASA listening station in Alaska when his computer started beeping. At first, he thought it was just another satellite or space junk, but this signal was different. It had patterns. It repeated in ways that random space noise never did. Jack called his teammates. "Olivia, Daniel, you need to see this." Olivia Martinez put down her coffee and rushed over. Daniel Carpenter followed, still half asleep. They all stared at the screen. "Is that what I think it is?" Olivia asked, her eyes wide. Jack nodded. "It's not one of ours, and it's not Russian or Chinese either." They worked through the night, checking and double-checking. By morning, they were sure. The signal was coming from a ship that was approaching Earth, an alien ship. Within days, governments around the world knew about the aliens. There was panic in some places, excitement in others. Military forces went on high alert. Religious leaders called for calm. News shows talked about nothing else. The aliens called themselves the Vexari. They were part of something bigger called the Galactic Confederation. Their commander was named Zixtal. He had studied how to meet new species, but humans confused him from the start. The Vexari ship landed in a remote area of Canada. World leaders agreed that a small team should meet them first. Jack was chosen because he had been the first to detect the signal. Olivia and Daniel came too, along with military guards and language experts. The alien ship was silver and smooth, about the size of a large airplane. When the door opened, the humans gasped. The Vexari looked like tall, thin humanoids with blue-gray skin. They had 4 arms and large black eyes. Commander Zixtal wore what seemed to be a uniform with strange symbols. "We greet you on behalf of the Galactic Confederation," said Zixtal through a translation device. His voice sounded flat and mechanical. "We have been observing your broadcasts for some time." The humans introduced themselves. Jack stepped forward. "We're honored to meet you. We have so many questions." The first meetings went well. The humans learned that the Confederation included dozens of different alien species. The Vexari were explorers who found new civilizations. But as the talks continued, Jack noticed something odd. The aliens were confused by many human questions. "Do you have families?" Jack had asked. "We have breeding groups," Zixtal answered. "What about pets? Do you keep animals as companions?" This question really confused the aliens. "Why would we do this?" asked Zixtal. "Other species are resources or threats, not companions." After a week of talks, the aliens invited the human team to visit their ship. Jack was excited, but also nervous. As they prepared to leave, he heard a small noise near the fence of their camp. It was a tiny kitten, dirty and hungry. It must have been abandoned near the rural site. Jack picked it up and it purred in his hands. "We need to go," said one of the military guards. "I can't leave it here," Jack said. "It will die." Olivia smiled. "Bring it along. Maybe the aliens would be interested in seeing it." Jack tucked the kitten into a pocket of his jacket. He had already named it Whiskers in his mind. The inside of the alien ship was strange. The walls seemed alive, changing colors slightly as they walked. The air smelled like cinnamon and metal. The Vexari showed them their technology, their food processing units, and their communication systems. "What is that sound?" asked one of the alien crew members suddenly. Everyone stopped talking. A small meow came from Jack's pocket. He smiled and pulled out the kitten. "This is a cat, a baby one. I found it abandoned outside." The aliens stepped back. Their black eyes widened. Zixtal moved closer, staring at the tiny creature. "You brought another species onto our ship?" he asked. His translation device couldn't hide his surprise. "I'm sorry. I should have asked permission," Jack said, "but it needed help. It was alone and hungry." "You help other species, even when they are not useful to you?" Zixtal asked. Jack stroked the kitten's head. "Of course. We adopt animals all the time. They become part of our families." The aliens looked at each other. They seemed to be communicating, without words. This concept of adoption does not translate well, said Zixtal finally. You take creatures not of your kind into your living spaces? Voluntarily. Daniel nodded. Most humans have pets or would like to have them. Dogs, cats, birds, fish, reptiles. We form bonds with them. The aliens continued the tour, but they kept looking at Whiskers. The kitten had fallen asleep in Jack's hands. When they reached the ship's control room, Jack put Whiskers down for a moment while he examined some equipment. The kitten woke up and wandered off. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the room. Intruder in section 5, shouted one of the Vexari. Several crew members pulled out weapons that looked like silver rods. Jack realized they were talking about Whiskers. The kitten had walked into some kind of restricted area. On the screens, he could see Whiskers batting at some cables. The Vexari raised their weapons. The creature must be eliminated. It is interfering with critical systems. No! Jack ran forward and placed himself between the weapons and where Whiskers was. Don't hurt it. It's just curious, it doesn't understand. The aliens froze. Zixtal stepped forward. You would risk harm to protect this unrelated creature? Of course I would, Jack said. Please let me get Whiskers. The kitten won't damage anything. Zixtal lowered his weapon. He seemed confused but curious. Proceed, but we will watch carefully. Jack went into the restricted area and picked up Whiskers. The kitten purred and licked his hand. When he returned, the aliens gathered around. It shows affection to you, observed Zixtal, and you to it. Yet you share no genetic connection. That's right, said Jack. It's about companionship, not genetics. The rest of the visit was tense, but as they prepared to leave, Zixtal approached Jack privately. This concept of caring for other species, even protecting them at risk to yourself, is unknown in the Confederation, he said. Most species we have encountered see others only as resources or threats. Humans appear different. Jack smiled. Maybe that's something we can teach the galaxy. As the human team left the ship, the aliens watched them go. Through the window, Jack could see Zixtal still staring at Whiskers with what seemed like wonder. That night, as the team reported to their governments, Jack knew something important had happened. Humans had shown the aliens something they had never seen before. That different species could care for each other, protect each other, and love each other. And it had all started with a tiny kitten named Whiskers. 6 months passed since the Vexari first landed on Earth. Humans and aliens were now working together more closely. The world had changed forever. Space was no longer empty and unknown. Humans now knew they shared the galaxy with many different species. The Earth leaders had built a special ship called the USS Horizon. It was the first human ship designed to travel between stars. Its job was to take important people to meet with the Galactic Confederation. Samantha Lee was chosen as Earth's ambassador. She was smart and calm, even in strange situations. Patrick Reyes worked with her as the team's expert on alien life. Eric Bennett led the security team that kept everyone safe. The USS Horizon left Earth's orbit on a clear Monday morning. Its engines glowed blue as it accelerated away from the planet. Inside, the crew watched their homeworld grow smaller on the viewing screens. 3 days until we reach the Confederation outpost, said Captain Rogers from the bridge. All systems are working perfectly. Ambassador Lee spent her time studying alien languages and customs. Patrick prepared reports about human biology to share with alien scientists. Everyone was excited but also nervous. On the second day of their journey, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Unknown vessel detected, announced the computer voice. It appears damaged. Captain Rogers called Ambassador Lee to the bridge. On the main screen, they could see a strange ship. It was red and black with sharp angles. Smoke seemed to be coming from one side. We're receiving their identification. Signal, said the communications officer. It's a Krellnak ship. Everyone on the bridge grew quiet. They had been warned about the Krellnak. These reptile-like aliens were enemies of the Confederation. They were known for being aggressive and territorial. The Vexari had specifically told humans to avoid them. Their life support systems are failing, reported Patrick, looking at the sensor readings. They're going to die if no one helps them. Confederation protocol is clear, said Captain Rogers. We should avoid all contact with the Krelnak. Ambassador Lee stood silently for a moment. Then she straightened her shoulders. We're not going to leave them to die. Prepare a rescue team. Ambassador, with all respect, these aliens are dangerous, warned Patrick. The Confederation has been fighting them for hundreds of years. They're still living beings, said Samantha firmly, and humans don't leave others to die, even if they might be enemies. Eric Bennett prepared his security team. They put on protective suits and carried stun weapons. The USS Horizon moved carefully alongside the damaged alien ship. Using a special connecting tunnel, Eric's team entered the Krelnak vessel. Inside, they found 3 Krelnak. 2 were adults with dark green scales and yellow eyes. They were hurt, but still conscious. The third was smaller, a juvenile, Patrick realized. The adult Krelnak hissed warnings when they saw the humans. They tried to stand but were too weak. Eric instructed his team to move carefully. We're here to help you, he said, though he knew they probably couldn't understand him. The humans brought the 3 aliens back to the Horizon. The adults were placed in a secure medical room. They were hostile and suspicious, watching the humans with angry eyes. But they were too weak to fight. The juvenile was different. It was curious despite being scared. Its scales were lighter green, and its eyes looked around at everything in the human ship. Patrick examined the young Krelnak and found it was very sick with a lung infection. It needs medicine right away, he told the medical team. The adults made threatening sounds when humans approached the juvenile, but they couldn't stop the treatment. For 3 days, the human medical team worked to save the young Krelnak. They gave it medicine and made sure it could breathe properly. Patrick spent hours sitting beside its bed, monitoring its condition. The juvenile began to recover. Patrick noticed it watching him with interest. He started talking to it, explaining what he was doing. Then he had an idea. He brought a tablet with children's stories from Earth and read them aloud to the young alien. To everyone's surprise, the juvenile seemed to enjoy the stories. It made soft clicking sounds when Patrick entered the room. The medical team started calling it Spike because of the row of small spines along its back. The adult Krelnak watched all this in silence. They were still suspicious, but their hostility had lessened. They seemed confused by how the humans treated the juvenile. Meanwhile, the USS Horizon had sent messages to the Confederation outpost about the rescue. The response was immediate and alarming. The humans were ordered to stop all aid to the Krelnak and to keep them in isolation until Confederation officials arrived. A Vexari ship was dispatched to intercept them. Commander Zixtal, who had met humans during first contact, was sent to handle the situation. When Zixtal's ship arrived, the commander requested to come aboard the Horizon immediately. Ambassador Lee met him in the docking bay. You have violated Confederation security protocols, said Zixtal without greeting. The Krelnak are dangerous enemies. They cannot be trusted. They were dying, Samantha replied. We couldn't ignore that. The Krelnak would not have helped you in the same situation, said Zixtal. They would have destroyed your ship. That doesn't change what was right for us to do, said Samantha. Would you like to see them? Zixtal followed her to the medical section. When they reached the juvenile's room, Zixtal stopped in shock at the doorway. Inside, Patrick was sitting beside the young Krelnak's bed. He was reading a story about Earth animals. The juvenile was making soft sounds that almost seemed like laughter. What surprised Zixtal most was that the juvenile had a small Earth toy, a soft plush dog, that it held carefully in its clawed hands. You gave it a comfort object? Asked Zixtal in disbelief. His name is Spike, said Patrick, looking up. And yes, he likes the toy. It helps him feel safe. You named an enemy alien? Zixtal's translator couldn't hide his shock. He's not an enemy, said Patrick. He's a child who needed help. Zixtal moved closer to the bed. The juvenile Krelnak looked at him but showed no fear. He held up the toy as if showing it off. The adults are recovering too, said Samantha. They're still wary of us. but they've seen how we've cared for their young one. Sixtal was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "First a small Earth cat, now enemy aliens. Is there anything humans won't adopt?" Patrick smiled. "Not that we've found yet." As they left the room, Zixtal asked, "What will happen to them when they fully recover?" "We hope to help them return to their people," said Samantha. "But if that's not possible, we'll find another solution. We won't abandon them." Zixtal stared at the humans. "I must report this to the Confederation Council. They will not understand." "Then help them understand," said Samantha. "Tell them that sometimes old enemies can become new friends. It starts with seeing them as living beings worthy of care, not just as enemies." Zixtal nodded slowly. As he prepared to return to his ship, he looked back at the room where Patrick was still reading to Spike. Something was changing in the galaxy, and humans were the cause. Word about humans and their strange ways spread quickly through the Galactic Confederation. Many alien leaders were worried. Humans did not follow the usual rules of space. They helped enemies. They treated other species like family. This was new and different, and many aliens did not like change. The Vexari High Council called an emergency meeting. They sat around a large table made of glowing blue stone. Commander Zixtal stood before them, explaining what he had seen on the human ships. "These humans rescued Krelnak," said one council member. "Her name was Vexuri, and she was old even by Vexari standards. They endangered themselves for our enemies. They cannot be trusted." "I believe they can be trusted exactly because of this," said Zixtal. "They value all life, not just their own." The council argued for hours. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening on Earth. A group of aliens called the Prilnax had arrived to study human mathematics. They looked like blue insects, standing on two legs. They had 4 arms and large eyes that seemed to change color with their mood. They were brilliant at math, but very shy around other species. The Prilnax team was sent to visit different places on Earth. One of these places was a large animal sanctuary in Montana, run by a woman named Kelly Richardson. Kelly was tall, with red hair and a loud laugh. She had spent her life saving animals that were hurt or abandoned. When the 5 small Prilnax arrived at her sanctuary, Kelly greeted them with a big smile. "Welcome. I'm so excited to show you around." The aliens seemed scared of her at first. She was much taller than them, and her voice was louder than they were used to. But Kelly didn't mind. She was used to scared creatures. "Let me show you what we do here," she said more softly. She led them to a barn where she was taking care of 3 baby deer whose mother had been hit by a car. The Prilnax watched in silence as Kelly fed the fawns with bottles of milk. One of them, named Tik, moved closer to see better. "Would you like to try?" Kelly asked, holding out a bottle. Tik's eyes turned purple with surprise, but after a moment the alien reached out and took the bottle. With Kelly's help, Tik fed the small deer. The other Prilnax watched, their eyes changing from blue to green to purple. "You care for species that are not your own," said Tik through a translator, "even though they give you nothing in return." "They give me plenty," said Kelly, "just not in ways you can measure." Over the next few days, Kelly showed the aliens all around her sanctuary. They saw how she helped eagles with broken wings learn to fly again. They watched her clean mud from turtles and put medicine on a wolf's injured leg. But what really changed everything was Lucky. Lucky was a border collie dog with only 3 legs. He had been found in a ditch, badly hurt. Kelly had saved him, and now he followed her everywhere, his tail always wagging. Tik was fascinated by Lucky. The alien would sit for hours watching the dog. On the 3rd day, Lucky went up to Tik and put his head on the alien's lap. The Prilnax froze at first, but then slowly began to pet the dog's head. "He likes you," said Kelly, smiling. When it was time for the Prilnax to leave Earth, Tik didn't want to go. "What will happen to Lucky if I leave?" the alien asked. "He'll stay here with me and the other animals," Kelly said. Tik was quiet for a long time. Then, "Could Lucky come with me?" This was a new problem. No Earth animal had ever left the planet to live with an alien. There were no rules for this. Kelly had to call Ambassador Lee. Samantha talked to Confederation leaders. There were many meetings and many forms to fill out. But in the end, Lucky became the first Earth animal officially adopted by an alien. Special containers were built so he could travel safely in space. Special food was prepared for his journey. Doctors wrote instructions for his care. On the day of departure, many people gathered to watch. Kelly hugged Lucky one last time. "Be a good boy," she said, wiping away tears. Dick gently picked up the dog and carried him up the ramp to the ship. Lucky wagged his tail, not afraid at all. Pictures of the small blue alien carrying the three-legged dog were shown all over Earth. News reports called it a historic moment for human-alien relations. When Tik arrived home with Lucky, other aliens were shocked. But they were also curious. The Prilnaks had always been quiet and kept to themselves. Now other species visited them just to see the Earth dog. Soon other aliens began asking to visit Earth. But they didn't want to see famous buildings or meet important people. They wanted to see the animals. Requests came in from all over the Confederation. Aliens wanted to visit zoos, farms, and wildlife parks. Confederation scientists were confused. Why did so many feel drawn to Earth's creatures? What was happening to their people? Meanwhile, the Krelnak had learned that humans had rescued some of their kind. This was shocking news. No species had ever helped the Krelnak before. Most just feared them. For the first time in hundreds of years, the Krelnak sent a message that wasn't a threat. They wanted to know about their people, especially the young one called Spike. Patrick sent videos of Spike playing with toys and learning English words. The juvenile had grown attached to humans and didn't want to leave them, but he also wanted to see others of his own kind. After much discussion, the Krelnak sent a small ship to meet the USS Horizon. It was the first peaceful Krelnak contact with any species in generations. They came to see Spike and to learn why humans had saved their people. The Vexari High Council watched all these events with growing concern. But Commander Zixtal had changed his mind about humans. In his private quarters, he now kept a small glass case with two small green lizards from Earth called geckos. He found himself talking to them when he was alone. Perhaps the humans are right, he told the little lizards as he fed them small insects. Perhaps there is more to life than just survival and power. The geckos just blinked at him, but somehow that was enough. Peace between different species was growing stronger. Humans had joined many Confederation meetings. They had shared their music, art, and food with alien friends, and aliens had started to understand the human love for adopting other creatures. But then a new danger came from beyond the edges of known space. The hive swarm attacked without warning. They were insect-like aliens that moved and thought as one mind. To the swarm, all other life was either food or competition. They did not talk. They did not make peace. They only destroyed. The first attack hit 3 Confederation worlds at once. The swarm ships were organic and moved like giant bugs through space. They released smaller ships that looked like wasps. These smaller ships attacked everything in their path. The Confederation military tried to fight back, but they were not prepared. Several outposts were quickly overrun. One of these outposts was a research station where human and alien scientists were working together. They sent out a distress call before communication was lost. Captain Lisa Williams of the USS Endeavour heard the call. Her ship was the closest. The Endeavour was newer and faster than the Horizon. It had weapons, but it was still mainly a science and exploration ship. "We have to help them," Lisa told her crew. "There are 15 humans on that station, plus 30 aliens from different species." Frank Donnelly nodded. He had once been a park ranger in Yellowstone before joining the space program. Now he led the Endeavour's security team. "My team is ready, Captain." The Endeavour reached the station 12 hours after the distress call. Through the windows, they could see damage to many parts of the station. Some sections were dark. Others had holes torn in their walls. "Life signs detected," reported the science officer. "But they're scattered. Some human, some alien, and something else." Lisa and Frank led a rescue team onto the station. They wore protective suits and carried weapons. The halls were dark and cold. In some places, strange organic material covered the walls. It looked like a giant wasp nest. "Stay alert," Frank warned his team. "We don't know what these swarm creatures look like up close." They found survivors hiding in sealed rooms. Some were hurt. All were scared. The team began helping them back to the Endeavor. "Where's Dr. Jefferson?" Lisa asked one of the rescued scientists. "Mia Jefferson, the biologist?" "Last I saw her, she was in the biology lab," said the scientist. "She said she had discovered something important about the swarm." Frank and Lisa led a small team to the biology lab. They had to fight their way through several corridors. The swarm creatures attacked them from the shadows. They looked like large insects with sharp claws and multiple eyes. They made clicking sounds as they moved. Finally, they reached the lab. Inside, they found Dr. Mia Jefferson alive. She was a short woman with curly hair and glasses. She was working at a computer console. "Dr. Jefferson," Lisa called. "We need to evacuate now." "Just a minute," Mia said without looking up. "I've made a breakthrough." Frank noticed something strange. There were 3 glass containers in the room. Each one held what looked like a swarm drone. But these drones weren't attacking, they were just sitting there watching. "What are those?" Frank asked, pointing his weapon at the containers. "That's my breakthrough," said Mia. "These swarm drones are cut off from their hive mind. I used a special pheromone to block the signal. Without the hive connection, they're not aggressive. They're confused and almost childlike." Frank moved closer to one container. The drone inside watched him, with compound eyes. It didn't look angry or scary now. It looked lost. "We need to go," Lisa insisted. "We need to take them with us," Mia said. "If we can understand how to block the hive mind signal on a larger scale, we might be able to stop the swarm without killing them all." They took the containers back to the Endeavor. In a secure lab, Mia continued her work. Frank often visited, curious about the drones. "They're learning," Mia told him one day. "They've never had individual thoughts before. They've always been just parts of the larger mind." Frank watched one drone trying to stack small blocks. It was clumsy but determined. "It reminds me of rehabilitating injured wolves," he said. "They need routine. They need to feel safe before they can learn new behaviors." Frank started working with Mia. He created schedules for feeding and interacting with the drones. He spoke to them in calm, even tones. He showed them simple tasks and rewarded them when they succeeded. To everyone's surprise, the drones began to respond. They recognized Frank when he entered the room. They made different sounds for different people. They learned to pick up specific objects when asked. "They're developing individual personalities," Mia said with excitement. "This one is more curious. That one is more cautious." When Confederation reinforcements arrived, they were shocked to find humans trying to communicate with swarm drones. Most aliens wanted the drones destroyed immediately. "These are the enemy," said the Confederation commander. "They have destroyed entire worlds." "These specific drones haven't destroyed anything," Mia argued. "They were following the hive mind's orders. Now they're learning to think for themselves." Based on Mia's research, the humans developed a weapon that could disrupt the swarm's hive mind temporarily. During the next battle, they used this weapon. When the signal was blocked, the attacking drones became confused. Instead of killing the confused drones, Frank's team captured them. They set up a rehabilitation center on an uninhabited moon. There, they began the slow process of helping the drones develop individual consciousness. Many in the Confederation disagreed with this approach. They wanted all swarm creatures destroyed. Arguments grew heated in the council chambers. Then something happened that changed many minds. During a swarm attack on a colony world, a rehabilitated drone was helping evacuate children. When swarm forces broke through defenses, the rehabilitated drone stood between them and a human child. It fought against its former hive mates to protect the child. Someone captured this moment on video. The image of a swarm drone defending a human child spread throughout the Confederation. People began to question what they thought they knew about the swarm. "Maybe they aren't born evil," Frank told a Confederation hearing. "Maybe they just never had the chance to be anything else." As the war with the swarm continued, more drones were captured and rehabilitated. It was slow, difficult work. Not all could be saved. But humans refused to give up. This is what humans do, Lisa explained to alien allies. We see potential in unexpected places. We believe that enemies can become friends. We adopt those who need homes, even if they're different from us. The Confederation was beginning to understand. Humanity's strange habit of adopting anything might be their greatest gift to the galaxy. 10 years passed since humans first met the Vexari. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The strange human habit of adopting other species had spread to many worlds. Aliens who once saw other life forms only as threats or resources now understood what it meant to care for something different from themselves. Commander Zixtal was no longer just a starship commander. He was now the Vexari ambassador to Earth. His office in the new galactic embassy was filled with terrariums containing small reptiles from Earth. He had become especially fond of geckos and turtles. Other Vexari thought he was strange at first, but many had started keeping their own Earth pets. Zixtal had written a famous research paper called The Companion Theory. It suggested that species who formed bonds with other kinds of creatures developed more creative thinking and better problem-solving skills. His work was changing how the Confederation understood intelligence. On the Confederation capital world, a new building had opened. It was called the Interspecies Companion Center. Aliens from all over the galaxy came there to learn how to adopt and care for creatures from other worlds. Humans worked as teachers, showing aliens how to understand the needs of different animals. The Krelnak had surprised everyone by becoming experts at helping swarm drones. After making peace with the Confederation, they had offered to work with the rehabilitated drones. Their understanding of territory and instinct made them good at this work. Many drones now lived peacefully on a Krelnak colony world. Spike, the young Krelnak who had been rescued by humans years ago, was now grown. He worked as a translator between his people and humans. He still kept the stuffed toy dog Patrick had given him when he was young. It sat on a shelf in his home, a reminder of kindness that had changed his life. The rehabilitated swarm drones had begun to create their own culture. Some wrote poetry, others made art. Most of their stories were about being adopted by other species and finding their own minds. They called themselves the Free Minds now, no longer part of the swarm. On Earth, a small town in Colorado had become famous across the galaxy. Hope, Colorado was home to the largest wildlife sanctuary on the planet. Heather Collins ran the sanctuary. She was a quiet woman with gray hair who had once been a veterinarian. Now she oversaw care for hundreds of Earth animals and dozens of alien species that needed help. Alien tourists came to Hope from all over the Confederation. They paid to help feed baby animals and learn how to care for injured creatures. Some cried with joy when a bird they had helped heal flew free again. Others bonded so deeply with the animals they cared for that they applied to adopt them. I never thought I'd see a Vexari cry, Heather told her assistant one day after watching a tall blue alien sob with happiness when a baby deer took its first steps. But now I see it every week. The greatest test of how much the galaxy had changed came when scientists discovered a planet far away where a star was dying. The planet was home to a primitive but intelligent species that had not yet developed space travel. As their star grew hotter, their world was becoming too hot to live on. In 100 years, all life there would end. In the past, the Confederation would have simply recorded this extinction as a sad but natural event. But things were different now. We need to help them, Jack Norton said at a special meeting of the Confederation Council. He was old now, his hair white, but his eyes were still kind and determined. Whiskers, the cat that had started everything, had lived a long life and passed away years ago. But Jack had other cats now, and the lesson Whiskers had taught the galaxy lived on. Their whole civilization will die, Jack continued. We can save them. The council agreed. For the first time in Confederation history, a massive relocation effort began for a species that could offer nothing in return. Ships from all member worlds traveled to the dying planet. Carefully and respectfully, they explained the situation to the local people and offered them new homes on safe worlds. Some aliens were concerned that the refugees would lose their culture and history. Humans suggested creating special centers where the refugees could maintain their traditions while adapting to their new homes. The Krelnak, once feared as violent enemies, volunteered to host many refugee families, as their warm worlds were most like the refugees' original home. As the rescue effort continued, the long-range sensors detected something new at the edge of known space. A ship unlike any they had seen before was approaching Confederation territory. Was it friendly or hostile? No one knew. In the past, the Confederation would have sent warships immediately. Now they prepared a different kind of delegation. The ship that went to meet the newcomers carried humans, rehabilitated swarm drones, Krelnak cultural experts, and Vexari scientists. Each brought their adopted companions from various worlds. Jack Norton was invited to join this mission as an advisor. As their ship prepared to depart, he stood by the viewing window looking out at the stars. "I wish you could see this, Whiskers," he said softly. "You changed everything." A young Vexari approached him, holding a small Earth kitten. "Ambassador Norton, this is my first mission representing my people. I am nervous." Jack smiled and gently scratched the kitten's ears. "You'll do fine. Just remember what we've all learned. Family isn't about looking the same or coming from the same place. It's about caring for each other despite our differences." As their ship moved toward the unknown, the crew was not afraid. They had learned that even the strangest aliens could become friends. Even old enemies could become allies. The galaxy had discovered what humans had always known, that love and care could cross the boundaries between species. The humans had taught the stars a new way of living. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness. A man who couldn't leave a kitten behind